Welcome everybody. So this is Mauro Dallamura. I'm the GRSS chapters committee chair, and I'm so welcome to this new webinar related to chapters. And we have the pleasure to have members of MGA with us today. And so in particular, Khanh Liu, who is the Senior Information Management Analyst from IEEE Member and Geographic Activities Department, and his colleagues Helen Schminski and Marguerite Gargiulo that will give us an overview on electronic services provided by IEEE for supporting the chapter's activities. So just a quick note, so Khanh Liu is responsible for web services and manages well, almost like 3,000 IEEE websites. So he's really the person behind this. So I would like to thank again Khanh, Helen, and Marguerite for their availability to provide this webinar, and I'm giving the floor to Khanh for the presentation. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Khanh, and as Mauro has said, I'm here with my colleagues from MGA, Helen Schminski and Marguerite Gargiulo. I'll start off with web hosting. So whenever you need to get in contact with us, you can use our email alias, mga-im@ieee.org. Some resources to check out later, IEEE-elearning.org/CLE. That's the Center Learning resource. That's where you can learn how to become a volunteer and all the tools available to you. mga.IEEE.org, more resources for volunteer. Site.IEEE.org/vTools. That's to learn all about vTools, including the tutorials for vTools. And on the sidebar, there are quick links to various tools like requesting WebEx. The next one is site.IEEE.org/web-hosting-request. That's where you submit your web hosting request if you don't have a website already. IEEE Collabratec, that's collaboration space. You can create your own workspace and form a small group where you can collaborate on various topics, share files and whatnot. IEEE.tv, and that's just for videos, uploading presentations, videos from distinguished lecturers, and so on. This is the vTools blog site. Here's the tutorials, list of our tools, frequently asked questions, the blog. You can contact us from here as well. Click on contact, or you find a bug, you can click on feedback. All right, now web hosting. We used to offer several types of web hosting, including HTML, but currently the HTML portion of it is on hold until we figure out a solution to increase the performance and whatnot. So the only option right now, if you want us to host your website, is through WordPress. You can contact me using this alias, ewh-webmaster@IEEE.org. All the hosting types, they're currently, oh sorry, I left out the other option. There are 3 options. HTML is not available. So the only 2 available are WordPress and vTools WebInABox. vTools WebInABox is just a simple automated website service. Marguerite, she's the one who can tell you all about it later if you have any questions. But all those options have feeds available. So to automate certain features of your site, such as the calendar page, you can pull in the vTools events feed. And to automate the officer list, you can pull in the officer feed. And links to other chapters, you can pull in that feed as well. There are tutorials for this, or you can just contact me for more information. WordPress is an open source content management system that's used by millions and millions of people. And there are plenty of resources out there and a very large developer community. You can learn more about WordPress by going to wordpress.org. The reason why we selected WordPress to host all of our OU websites is because it offers an intuitive interface. So between WordPress and say Joomla, for example, you can learn WordPress in like an hour, whereas in Joomla, you need a lot more time to learn how to use Joomla because it's so complex. And the layout is not very intuitive, in my opinion. The nice thing about WordPress is that you no longer need an FTP client to connect to a server and transfer your files. You can just log into the dashboard and then use the media manager to drag and drop your files, pictures, videos, documents, whatever you need. At IEEE, we developed a WordPress theme for you, right, to have the look and feel of IEEE, including the colors and fonts. So if you were to request a WordPress site, I would copy a template site over to your site with theme in place and placeholder content in place. Creating forms is also easy to do using a plugin such as Gravity Forms. This is the front page of the IEEE template site. At the top, you have the slider, the image slider that you can customize. And then below that, you have the content blocks. And you can also customize the layout of this front page by using the page builder plugin. This is what the media library looks like. Thumbnails, right? If you want to add a file, click on Add New, and then you can just drag and drop multiple files into the screen, and it'll upload those files for you. You can do bulk selection, and you can delete all of them if you want, or just a couple at a time. You can search for your images or files, and you can sort by file types as well. So that's nice. On the left, the two main links that you'll be using are pages and posts. Pages are more for static contents, like the front page that doesn't change much, or about us, that doesn't change much either. So you'd use page. For posts are more for frequently updated content. For example, if you want your front page to display news, you would use posts type. And then plugins to enhance your website. So if you need additional functionality that isn't present, you can go in plugins and activate various plugins, such as, say, one to hide the breadcrumb or post title. All right, vTools WebInABox. This is the automated simple website service I was telling you about earlier. Hold on a second. I left out the web address for this. All right, to use WebInABox, you would log into webinabox.vtools.iee.org, sign in with your account, and then use the wizard to create your site. It's very quick. You can have your site up in 5 minutes. And the nice thing about WebInABox is that it keeps your calendar page automated, your officer page automated, and links to your other chapters and whatnot automated. The only downside to WebInABox is that when you upload files, they all go into a single page and you cannot link to individual file. I'm not sure if that has been updated yet to fix the issue, but if I remember correctly, it has not. So that's it for web hosting. Questions?
Hello, this is Maria from the Spanish chapter.
Hi, Maria.
I have a question. We have a WordPress page, but it is in an old format. So we made it a few years ago, and it's not updated to the latest version that you mentioned. Is it possible to update it?
Sure, you can send me an email. I think the easiest way to do it is for me to create a new site for you using the new theme, and then you can just copy and paste your content.
Okay, so we can migrate this way. Okay, I'll send you an email. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Khanh, I have a question for, like, let's say we have a newly created chapter that has to set up a website. Would you suggest to use WebInABox or like go for the WordPress website that you mentioned at the beginning?
WebInABox is great if you have limited resources to manage your site. But if you do have a dedicated webmaster, then I recommend WordPress because it can it has room to grow.
Because in WebInABox, you can't, for example, post announcements or have it as a blog.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
All right.
Perhaps, yes, I might have another question. I don't know if you are the right person to answer that. So I was wondering, like, if we have to reach out with members in our local communities, so what kind of tools shall we use?
Right.
So I mean, if we have to send an email for regarding an event or to communicate with members,
Great question.
or even non-members.
Sure. So you would use your website to post events, right? But to get the information out and to provide registration, right? You would use the vTools events and vTools eNotice. And Marguerite, she'll cover that in a little bit after Helen.
Okay.
I have one question, please. This is Jeff Wood from ECSU. WordPress is great, but if you have your own site and server, would you recommend swapping over to vTools?
What are you running now?
We're running Apache.
Right. I mean, what's running your website? What are you using to manage your website?
We're using Dreamweaver to manage our website. Okay,
so that's HTML based?
Yes, well, it's HTML in full and a lot of different plugins that you can use with it.
All right, I highly recommend migrating to WordPress. You'll find that it's easier to manage and more flexible, and it has plenty of room to grow. Because all you have
Where's
to do
the
is
hosting at?
And also, as I said earlier, we have the IEEE theme in place, right? With all the IEEE style guide built into it. The right font, the right colors, so on.
Okay.
So content, do you have content recommendations for our websites?
What was that, sorry?
Do you have content recommendations?
Well, history is an important part, right, of a website when you're trying to post information about your organizational unit, right? Visitors would want to know a little bit about your chapter, like chapter formation, how it's formed, who is behind it, and why, right? And then you definitely need a contact page, right? You need a list of officers, but don't list the treasurer's email address. You can just give a name. And then you can use the contact page for visitors to select a position to contact. I can show you how to do that later if you send me an email. And then the calendar page is an important one. You pull in the vTools events feed, right, to populate your calendar.
Okay.
And display all of your events. And when a visitor clicks on a link, they get a page with more details. And they click on the registration link, it'll go to vTools events for registration. Those are important pages of a website, I think, for Know You.
Okay, along with event highlights.
event highlights, event pictures, that definitely captures the younger audience, right? Because
Okay.
pictures sell.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you. Helen, you're up. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Helen Schminski. I also work in MGA information management. Khanh, you have to stop your, all right. I'll share my screen. I work with a few different vTools. One of my primary tools I work with is OU Analytics. And I'm just going to give you an introduction to it. OU Analytics is the tool that we provide to volunteers to be able to query and find out about their membership for their organizational unit. It's powered by a tool called Tableau, and which is an online business analytics tool. It allows you to view and find different visualizations of different data that's available on the IEEE database. Be able to begin to get into it is using the link www.ieee.org/OU Analytics. Now this is going to bring you to what is the MGA volunteer homepage. The reason I say to start here instead of starting in the tool itself is because this page provides the users, the volunteer users, with a lot of information. In this, you have the actual link to get to the tool. But you also have an area here. I have important announcements, new features, training. As you'll see, there's a whole different side area here that different tools that you can get to. As I said, you have the access, so you could see who has access. Now, access in OU Analytics is based on the volunteer position, organizational unit, and whether or not you have that position. As chapter chairs, you have the ability to get in and view members of your organizational unit itself. Some people have carry more than one hat, so you might be able to get into OU Analytics to see different areas. Say if you work within your section, you have a higher section position, or if you're working as a chapter chair. So regardless, depending on your position, and you could always see what positions have access. You could also find information such as downtime. We do have just recently, our IT department has come with a schedule of twice a month doing work on OU Analytics, doing necessary updates and such. Up to now, it's just been on an ad hoc timing, and I would put the announcements on here. But now I didn't have a chance to update this page, but I do have a list of the dates when and the times that OU Analytics would not be available. You also have reference materials. There's a lot of different materials here that might be of help to you in your position. You have training. There's training materials. I have PDFs and some recorded sessions. I am planning to update these. We've done some work recently. I was waiting to the work for upgrades that we're making, and I'm going to be making short tutorials that will help. So keep an eye out on this, because if it isn't here now, it might be here sometime in the future. Very short tutorials, how to do this, how to do that, things that might make it much easier for you to work with the tool. You also have questions and answers. This is a very good page to go to. It's the OU Analytics Q&A page. When you go to this link, you'll see a series of questions, typical questions that the volunteers might ask, such as, how do I find how do I download my members, or how do I find other chapter chairs in areas around me, in sections around me, or something to that effect. This will give you, if you find the question, if you click on the link, it will bring you to step-by-step instructions on how to be able to pull that information in OU Analytics. And if you don't see the question that you have, but you see might be importance that other officers might be able to use, other users, you could always email me, and what I could do is I can add it. It's constantly growing thing. Every time something new comes up or there's a new question that comes out that would be help to all the other volunteers, I add into it. You also have an area of new features. Because this is a growing tool. From where we were a couple of years ago when we first started using it, we've come a long way, adding a lot of new features. And a lot of the features that we've added in have been at the request of the volunteers. There's also, if you'd be interested in it, there is a OU Analytics users group. They meet once a month on WebEx, and you can find out more about it. But this is where, say, if you have questions, or if you think that maybe there is a tool or something that could be changed to make it easier to use and more effective as a tool, you are more than willing to join this group. Again, you can click on this link to find out more about it. Whenever you go into OU Analytics, there is terms and conditions of the data use and availability. Now, this information, there's a lot of information about the members that is included. Therefore, you have to agree that the data is only going to be used by for IEEE members for use to help with officers and committee members and such. You can find out more about what the policies are. There is a link when you go on to the OU Analytics website. Signing into OU Analytics is basically your IEEE web account, username, and your password. Once you get in, it will bring you to the OU Analytics homepage. Now, what this homepage is this is a starting point off of, depending on where you want to go. There are actually 6 different dashboards that you can use to go into OU Analytics and to use the data. As chapter chairs, you're going to be centered more in the memberships, subscriptions, and more tabs. This tab is specific more for the societies, the technical communities, affinity groups, and such, and the different subscriptions. Here you will find a lot and most of your information. You also have the doublet and the maps. I'll go over them in a moment. There's also on here, there is a link to the memberships and subscriptions monthly statistics. This is an important document, and it is only numbers, but it is a lot of very good numbers. These are the end of month numbers for all the different OU units. You have split between 2 areas. You have the geographic users, such as sections, regions, and those type of subsections. Then you have the subscriptions for the societies. This is a different area. The societies, that's where you'll get all your numbers for society memberships. and it's an open area. So you're not limited to only seeing your numbers. You can see how other chapters in your area are doing. You can look at other numbers. So because they are only numbers and they're not linked to IEEE members, it is an open area. So you can see how the other areas are doing. Now, to give you a breakdown of the 6 areas, the members and affiliates is more based on geographic units, such as regions, sections, subsections. There's different breakdowns and different tabs that you can look to find a lot of different information. Now, the membership, subscriptions, and more tab, it provides information regarding the memberships, subscriptions, participations by regions, grade, gender. Here you can find years of service and renewal category. You can filter by product name, by region, renewal category, and such. You also have the students dashboard, which is basically a list of all the attending students by section and school. The doublet is also something you might find valuable. It gives an IEEE-wide view of overlapping memberships. So if you wanted to see, say, in your area, how many of your chapter members also belong to, say, young professionals or women in engineering or a different society, you can see the overlapping memberships by using the doublet dashboard. Volunteer positions is an open area. This is the list. It's almost like the organizational roster is on the IEEE pages. This is the current OU volunteers and the volunteer history. So not only from here you can see who the volunteers are currently, but say if you have a volunteer in your organizational unit and say you want to see what other positions he's ever held or she's ever held, you can see that. Or if you want to try to find some volunteers to fill in positions and say you want to see who might be interested, who has a history of doing volunteer, you can look to see and use the volunteer history. The map dashboard is also, again, it is just organizational units and counts, but there's a lot of information in here. Not only do you have like IEEE the society and IEEE member counts, you can get the chapter summary and the chapter member counts. So you can see the breakdown for your sections and for your chapters and how many chapter members you have. Now, when you get on it, this is shows you the membership, subscriptions, and more dashboard. When you're on it, the way to maneuver and see what is around is you have this up in the upper left is your breadcrumb bar. This will always tell you where you are currently in the dashboard, because once you're in the dashboard, you have the ability of being in many different tabs and in many different areas. This area is available data sources such as the product dashboard, you have product summary by region, renewal category, and other tabs that are available. The detail tab is always where you'll end up whatever visualization you choose here. When you go to here, this is where you're going to actually see the detail for your members. You'll be able to see contact information and other information about them. This is a new feature that's only been in here a little while. It's the new designation-based filter. It makes it a lot easier when you go in. Now here, this is large because it was my access. But say if you go in as a member, I mentioned before about if you hold more than one hat. So if you say something to the society, or you're a chapter chair, or you're also something in the section. It's a breakdown, so what you can do is choose, like say this is for the Alaska section GRS. If you click on that, say if that's one of the options when you view and see this, if you click on that, it will automatically put the status set for that area. So if I clicked on this, my data set would automatically filter for Alaska section for GRS society members. So it makes it a lot easier to come in here. There are other filters available that you can further define on, such as grade if you're only looking for maybe life members in it or something else, or status. You're looking for active or you're looking for inactive. We also now have HKN membership in here for societies. But as you see, it's easy to get around. Over here, we also have the download. So when you do actually choose the information you want to download, this is how you would do it. There's also something called a tooltip. When you're in one of the areas and you click on that area to define it, you have a tooltip to be able to pull you, and you have different choices such as keep only, exclude, and view data. So if you see more things on the screen, I'll show you that in a second. If you see more things on the screen and you want to just say you just wanted a subset of the life members in your chapter, if you clicked on the life members, and then you click and you decide to keep only, this way it'll lock in that view. So when you go into the details, it'll bring you just that set. This is what a tooltip looks like. So what you would do is you would click on the areas. In this, we're showing the members and affiliates, which is the geo, but it's the same screens, the same type of view. If you click on that subset area, you would get that little tooltip. You would say keep only, and once it locks it, you can do view details. It'll bring you straight to the details with only that subset of information. Also to navigate the dashboards, we have collapsing and expanding columns. And this is in membership, subscriptions, and more. There is if you see a column such as region, say you wanted to get a section, you see in the one screen, you see that there's a region here, but you want to open up and open this section column. If you click on the little plus sign, that will open the column, and now you would have the section. If you wanted to close it, you would click on that again, and then it would close. A lot of the screens in membership, subscriptions, and more, you will notice that they do have this. So there is a lot of area where you can open and view further on down, section, section and subsection, and further. Downloading that data, this is what ends up a lot of the first-time users when they go to download, and it doesn't seem like they have the right information. Now, to download the data, now it depends on what you want to do, whether you want to open a pie chart or whether you want to download the data itself. But regardless, whatever you do, you have to click on that screen. You have to click on that table. So if it's pie chart you want to download, you need to click on the title of that pie chart. If it is a table that you want to download, every table has a column header that you can see all the different columns of information. You need to click within that gray area, that column, because by clicking on these visualizations is what Tableau, this is how Tableau knows what to download. Once you click on that, you'll have a number of different options when you do click on download. You can download to an image. You can download data, which is not recommended because the type of file it downloads to, it's multiple steps and it doesn't retain the format. What we do recommend is when you download, and if you're downloading data such as your member information, you would use Crosstab. By Crosstab, it downloads it to a CSV file that you can immediately click on and open up, and then save it into an Excel spreadsheet. So this is the cleanest way to be able to. Now, when you click on download and Crosstab is not one of the selected things that you can click, that's because you did not click on that visualization. That means you didn't grab what you wanted to see. You could also download into PDFs or into PowerPoints. PowerPoint, it downloads full screenshots of the dashboard into a PowerPoint presentation. As you can see here, this is an example of downloading the detail. So the detail tab for whichever you're working in, whether it's memberships and subscriptions or members and affiliates, this is what you're going to see. You'll see information such as region, council section, then you'll see custom number. This is only a small amount of information that is available. This is the basic, what we only have so many columns that we are allowed to have view in the column format. So we chose what we felt were the best to be able to give you an idea if that's the information you're looking for. Once you download this into the Excel spreadsheet, you will see a lot more information. You will see their their regular address. You will find their grades. You can see when the last time that they renewed their subscription, renewed their membership. You can see their grade histories, their years of service. So you could also see a list, concatenated list of all the societies that they belong to, not only your society, the other societies. So this is a lot of information available. So when you wanted to download it, you would click anywhere within this gray header area that I explained. This is what's going to grab that table. Once you grab here, you click on download, then you would get a list of the different ways you want to download it. You would select Crosstab and then pull it into a document. All right, there's a lot in OU Analytics. There's a lot of information available, and there's a lot of different ways to pull it. These are a list of contacts. If you just send an email to ouanalytics@ieee.org, it will go to all the people on this list. Any of us can answer it, but if you need to want to get in touch with me, I work primarily with the geographic and organizational units, but I can work, and I have for the last many years, worked with volunteers all across the area between geographic units, society units. I'm there to be able to help you and assist you. I've worked with OU Analytics for 25 plus years. I started here when it was basically a paper tool that was sent back and forth to the volunteers. And when we first started out, it has grown a lot over the years. It has changed. It has become what it is today, which is much more useful with a lot more information, and we're willing to help. We can answer any questions. As I said, if it's off hours, you could always look at the Q&A page to see if that has the answer. If not, send an email to here or send it directly to me and I'll assist you. Okay, does anybody have any questions? I know it's a lot.
So thanks a lot, Helen, for this nice presentation. I have a question from your experience. What are the main queries that are useful for chapters?
Chapters, you might want to see who your members are. You might want to see when it comes towards the end to the year when people start when renewing their membership. See how many people are going into arrears in your chapter, how to grow it, how to see more. Perhaps you want to look to see, say you're holding a small webinar that you feel might be of importance to different other different societies in your section. You might want to see how many members belong to those other different societies to see if there might be some sort of interest and be able to make it a joint webinar with that group, or just invite them. You can contact that chapter chair and see if they want to invite their members to your webinar. There's a lot of different things.
Okay, thanks. And I just saw there's a question from Veraldo, who is the chapter chair of the Brazil chapter. So he says, Dear Ellen, it seems that these options work perfectly for the current year. Would it be possible to track this info in the past years, like 2019, 2018, and so on?
If you're just looking at for numbers, with that neutral, that the memberships and subscriptions link that I told you about in the first, that is basically in the numbers by month, that is fairly new. So that actually goes back month by month to the end of 2019. So you could see the numbers. But also there is something called the annual statistics. You could also find that off the MGA pages, or you can just go www.org/stats, STATS. And what that is every year we combine a lot of information for year-end numbers. So these are all the year-end numbers. So if you want to see how your chapter or information of society memberships in your section for the past 4 or 5, this goes all the way down to the early 2000s. So
Okay.
there's a lot of information, and they're all charts and sheets. So they're all PDF files. So and it's all numbers, but there's a lot in there.
Okay, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Do you have any hint or suggestion for our chapter chairs in, like some features that in your opinion are not used to their full potential, or to do something in a different way?
It's hard to say. There's so much information that you can find in membership, subscription, more, that one dashboard that really would be helpful. You could see, to be able to bring more members in, you can see where they are, you can see what interests they are. Look at the best thing I would say is download the member detail and take a look at the information that is available in there, because there is a lot, and there might be a lot that really would be useful. And if you have any questions, you could always email me.
Thanks. So I think if anyone else has no question, we could move on and go to the presentation of Marguerite.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Everybody can see this?
Yes.
Good morning or good evening. I'm the vTools project manager. I'm going to give you a very high overview on the applications that are encompassed in vTools. vTools is like a tool chest of multiple tools. It covers 7 that I'm going to talk about, as well as a lot of people refer to things like Helen does and Khanh does as vTools, but I'm focusing on tools that you would have access as an officer. I show you this page, the same page that Khanh showed, because this is probably the best place to start. Here you can get direct links, quick links to each application. Say if you wanted to send an e-notice or you wanted to find out about requesting remote conferencing, you could come to this page, click on it, and it will direct you to that page. Also on this page is tab that says tools, that it gives you a very brief description of what the tool does, very high level, but gives you a general idea what it is. The tutorials are for each of the applications I'm going to talk about. There are tutorials there that will help you, guide you through. It's broken down, maybe each function, to see how you would fill out a form, how you'd set up a website, how you'd send an e-notice. So I recommend you go there. We have some videos, they're a little out of date, but for those people that like to see people do things in real time, that might be helpful. There is a contact staff form. So the contact tab, you could use that, and it goes directly to MGAIM. So that's Helen, Khanh, Vera, myself, and Eugene. And we will all get that question you send out or whatever, and we can answer you. And then there's blog, and the blog I point out because a lot of times it's information like, oh, the system will be down, IEEE is doing an upgrade, when we have a new release, do you want to know how you can access vTools? Those kind of things are posted there. So I actively update that. Okay, and then there's a search option. So if you look for a specific topic, you type it in, and as it shows here, it's Google that's giving us the results. Okay, so the first application we'll talk about is events. This is where you promote your local events. And I put in the URL, so if you click on that in this presentation when I send it to you, you'll be able to land on the home page. On the right is image of what somebody sees. You don't have to sign in to see the what the events are that are going on across the globe, as we are a worldwide organization. And so when you promote your local events, you create the content, and you create an event, you fill out a form. And in the past, if you had to, say, work with another chapter or your section, you would have to have your event for your chapter, and then the section would have their own event. And recently in August, we updated the event, so application. And so now when you create an event, you can create an event and say, okay, my chapter is holding it, and I'm also hosting with the section, and I'm also hosting the section in another region. So you can have an event that has multiple hosts. You just add them to your event, and then they would be part of the managing the event. So that's a plus, because you have now one event, multiple hosts, and in the end, when you're done with your event, you only have to file one report. If you've been an experienced officer, you know that could be a little painful, just because you want to coordinate efforts. So now we've made it so that you can do that. In addition, now, since we're going through so many virtual events, we've provided a section in the forum where you can put the web conferencing links, and that's advantageous to your members so that they can join your events. And we're finding that people are attending all throughout the regions because the events are now being available, let's say, over the internet. And you can post Zoom, Meet, WebEx information on your meeting, and so then it would be easily available. We also support attachments such as flyers and such. It collects registration if you want to set up registration, so you know who's going to attend. And if you want, maybe not now, but in the future, when there's in-person, you may be wanting to charge a fee, or maybe you want to charge a fee now. We have the capability to enable a payment process where you would register and then you make your payment, and we work through the concentration banking group to facilitate that, and the monies that are collected, and they are collected in either US dollars or Canadian, they're deposited into the local chapter's CB account. It's important, if you don't have one, that you need to start the process for that. It's not automatically enabled. So I want to emphasize that. If you have a question, you can write to me and I can help you through that if you're interested. You can also register the IEEE mobile app. And then once you have an event, you want to check in people. We have this thing, it's sort of like its own app within event. You can go to the page and just check in people that have registered, and it's a way to mark your registration, that you know who came in and who did not. And that might be important for you to maybe reach out to them later. I'll talk about that a little bit more with eNotice. When you have an event, now you want to promote it to your members, we have an integration between the eNotice system, which is an emailing service. So you can take your content that's in your event and use that to create your message in eNotice. You can also, in eNotice, send out a reminder with the same content or updated content, such as you're now providing the WebEx link. You could send specifically, anybody who's registered, you could send email through eNotice to that registration list. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get to eNotice. All of the events that you set up, they're publicly available. They'll feed into Collabratec. They are available in the mobile app. And as Khanh mentioned, for say your section website, you have a calendar. That is one of the pieces of content that would pull it in. WebInABox also does that. If you have a WebInABox site, the chapter events will be included automatically in the calendar on that particular WebInABox site. You can promote. We have buttons to allow you to post it to Facebook and Twitter. I mean, you have to have your own account, but we have the option where you can go and promote your events there. And then when you're done, you need to now tell headquarters that you had your meeting, so you report the meeting. And very simply now, the new way to do it, or say the new function, is that if you have an event and has multiple hosts, all you need to do is submit one report, and each of those hosts will get credit for holding the event. And as you know, reports goes into the annual rebate process. There's more information on the blog, and also I did include on my presentation links to the tutorials for each application. That should be an active link that will navigate you over there, give you a little more information. eNotice. So eNotice is an email system, and the email address that we use are from the same place that you would see where Helen just showed you OU Analytics. That same area, we pull in and use the email addresses for each active member that is in that database. The volunteers, when you're a volunteer, say, of a chapter, you send to your chapter members. You can choose, if you have multiple roles, you can choose to send in your eNotice to more than one OU. The system knows who you are when you sign in, knows your volunteer positions that you hold, and will provide that on the form, and you can send your message just simply for your chapter, or say you want to even include the student branches and such. There's filters that target your audience. I know people have asked, can you send to non-members? Not at this time. So this is basically IEEE members only. So we have a feature called Express. So Express really simply means is that you want that eNotice to go out right away. It schedules it. So once you compose your message, you click the Send Express button, confirm you want to send it Express, and then the system goes and pulls the list and schedules it to be delivered. We have a third-party email vendor that delivers the eNotice messages. It's labeled with IEEE. If you want to customize your from and your reply to, you can put your name, you can put your maybe chapter alias if you'd like. You can customize it so that people won't filter out everything that comes from IEEE, but it is branded. It looks like it's from IEEE when they look at the contents. You can include attachments. You have an option to preview it, and we recommend that because sometimes you might see an error, want to change something. Every eNotice that goes out has the list of OUs that are representing the message. So if you're the chapter and you're including the section, we include that in the footer. If they have a website, we're going to include that as well. So it's sort of promoting exposure to other events by the email that you send out. They may go to your website and say, oh, there's something else. And every member that receives this eNotice has an option to update the communication preferences. Say they don't want to receive any more local communications from your chapter. They have an option that they can click on there. So there's also a test. Send eNotice so you know what it looks like. And then I just show you right here that screen is just the home page of what eNotice looks like. So every chapter usually has to have officers. So we have a voting tool, and the voting tool just allows an officer to go in and create an online ballot for their chapter. If you're an officer of the chapter, we do give you the option to create the section 1 because there are times when there's no officers in a particular OU, and we provide the flexibility. If someone said, please, could you help us out? You can go in, the system says, okay, you belong to this section. Here are all the organizations that you can create a ballot for. I emphasize that because sometimes if there's no officers, how do you run an election? You have to get some other officer to do it, and we provide that. So we have dashboards. When you sign in, we give you a list of what's currently running, what are saved based on what you've created, and then there's also a list of elections that have been held in the past. You're also a member when you're a volunteer, and the same application voting you may have used to vote in your chapters. And so there's a different section, and in the lower right of my presentation is the page that shows, as a member, here's your list of ballots that you can vote on or you have voted in the past. We give you a history of what elections you were able to vote in. But as a volunteer, you have a unique dashboard that shows you the ones that are running, ones you're working on, and the past ones. So when you were running an election, you have candidates for multiple positions. You can set up positions and have 3 candidates, 2 candidates. You may want to say we have a position for, field master, and maybe you want 3 people to be on there. You can even have the ballot set up where people can vote for 3 out of 5 candidates. It's flexible enough to give you different choices. And so once you start your ballot and you start filling it out, one of the things is you have to also load your list of voters. The system will automatically pull a list of eligible voters based on the organization that's been assigned. So say it's the GRS chapter. You have an option, you click the button, that initiates the voting, the listing of the eligible voters. And eligible voters are people that are IEEE active members. And in the case of a chapter election, they have to be active in the society, and they have to be a grade of graduate student member or higher. So it pulls that list based on that criteria. The same area that pulls the list for eNotice, same area in OU Analytics where you see your members there and you would know who would be eligible. So pulls the list, and then you load it, and once you're ready, you can preview your ballot if you'd like before you activate it. You can schedule your election to run, a month ahead, from today if you want. You don't have to start it ahead of time. We do encourage you to start like a few months beforehand to at least prepare for this. So once your election is active, people need to know that you're running an election. You may have broadcast it somewhere else, but now since your election has started, there is an option for you to go into voting and then click on email my voters. There's an option to email your voters. You would compose a message just like you would any other email message, and it will go to that list of eligible voters. It doesn't go to all the members because there may be associate members they're not eligible. So it goes to the list of voters that have been loaded to the ballot and are eligible to vote in. So once your election is run, it runs its course. You have 3 opportunities, usually 3 times to send email through the voting tool, and it is not automatic, so I'm emphasizing that you have to actually explicitly select that option. Once your election is ended, you again, the person who's created the ballot, can go in and view the results. The results are available as a web page, and dependent on how you want to present the election results, you can download it in CSV, you can do a screenshot, that's up to you. Once an election is over, you would need to report your officers. Now, this is not automated because there's a window of time. You have 20 days, I believe, according to the operations manual, that you need to report your officers for an election. And so any one of the officers in the chapter, for example, would go in, sign into officer reporting, and report your election results. So officer reporting is an online tool that supports the regions, the councils, all of the OUs that you see listed here. It updates it automatically, and then the roster that's online is automatically updated as well. So the advantage of that is that reporting this officer or the election results provides access to those officers right away. Immediately. Once it's saved, the OU is updated, and their officer record shows that they now hold the office as an active officer. And so if you find you can't gain access to vTools, or you can't gain access to OU Analytics, this is the tool as well, because you have to tell IEEE headquarters, these are the roles I hold. And this is what what the systems look at in terms of what roles are you authorized. And so going into office reporting provides not only election results, but it's a way to provide you access, say, to OU Analytics. You can also, let me see, I'm looking at this here because one other piece of information is you have a new website. Say you work with Khanh to set up one, and you want to be able to include that in your e-notice message. Officer reporting was updated a few years ago, where you can actually go into officer reporting and provide the URL, the web address, and it will update the chapter record that's in IEEE to show that URL. When an e-notice is sent, then it will be included in the footer of the e-notice message. So officer reporting does two things: officers and also updating URL. Student branch reporting, I know this is a chapter meeting, but this is another tool that we support. The student branches every year have to provide a plan of their future activities they're going to do. So one of the officers comes in, it's a form they fill out about what they're doing in terms of, their goals, their activities they're planning. It has all of the officers that would be responsible for signing off. So this is just a view of a list of what plans have been submitted, just as a small example for 2019. WebInABox is something Khanh just mentioned. This is a wizard-like tool that it gives you very, standard pages, gives you the calendar, the officer list, links to the other organizations. If you're a chapter and you're part of the Romanian section, if Romania section has a website, in the list of organizations, that link, there'll be a link there to go to their website. This is very quick. You don't really have to know too much. You just know your content to put in there, and it's automatically updated. We are working on updating this look and feel of this right now, but it's a very simple way to get a website up and running. It's valuable because it also provides, another way to promote your events, because again, if you put events in the vTools events application, it also feeds into this website. There's a tab for events. And then we have Extreme, which I don't know many are aware of this or even go into here. This is really a registration system, and vTools supports this process through spring till October when the competition is being run. And it's simply team registration and proctor registration. It validates members, membership, and the proctor's registration helps to give a pool of proctors for the teams to pick from. So that's an application that we have been supporting for many years. And not one that you hear too much about, but I thought I'd give you some information. I get this question all the time: who can access? And I mentioned about officer reporting. It's key that you tell IEEE that you need to have access to certain things, what role you hold in an organization. So this is a list of positions that vTools supports. when you sign into vTools, we always try to recognize who you are and give you a user experience that says, oh, you don't have to really search too much for your chapter. We're going to provide you with a list of organizations that you can interact with and, you know, provide content. So this is a list. More information is on the blog. And again, report your officers. A lot of times I get asked, what organizations do we support? So this is just a table that kind of gives you an idea. Like events doesn't support councils, that's one of them. WebInABox doesn't support some. Student Branch is going to be supported in WebInABox. At the moment I made this, it doesn't support it. Obviously, Student Branches just support student branches. Student branch reporting. And then finally, the contact information. Any questions? I hope I didn't talk too fast, but I figured we're running a little bit late.
So thanks a lot, Margaret, for the presentation. So I don't know if there are any questions. So from the chat, I don't see any. So I have a question myself. Using events is fine, is clear with me, so we can reach out the members. What about if we have to send an announcement to like a group of members and non-members? Is there any tool that could be used? So I'm aware of Listserv, and with the French chapter we have been using this quite a lot, but I don't know if it is still like a best practice as a tool, or if you have any additional suggestion.
Actually, that Listserv is the one I would recommend. That's what we're offering now. I don't know, Helen, you may have another idea. I don't interact with the Listserv, so I couldn't speak to it, but for non-members, that's the only option I know of at the moment.
For non-members, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Marguerite. What about the custom list upload for eNote?
Okay. Well, no, there's no custom upload. I didn't mention though. I really didn't go into that. I didn't use that word custom. If you have a registration on your event, and then you choose to say, I'd like to send just the registrants an e-notice, that registration list could be members and non-members. And that's where you would end up sending an email through e-notice to a non-member. But you can't use that like for future. That's the only way that we kind of say, okay, a non-member's in that list. So you can send an e-notice, but nothing where you can upload at this moment. I know that's what we're under discussions about how to support that. And Listserv right now is the only option that I know of.
Correct.
So Listserv is perfect for non-members, but for members, you shouldn't use Listserv to contact them using for events. Right. For members, you should use eNotice because the list is always current members. It's always updated and it respects their opt-ins and whatnot.
That's what I was just going to say. With using eNotice, it automatically looks for people who do not want to be contacted for any reason.
Okay, I see. Okay, so yeah, I got a message from Linda with a very nice idea, and we could turn on our cameras to get a screenshot. I think if it is fine with you, we could like take such a screenshot. So let me see. Valerie. Okay, so nice to see you.
I normally don't put my screenshot up, my video. Normally, my laptop is closed anyway because I have a large monitor on my table that I work with.
Okay. So, and perhaps I just
Okay,
take
Khanh. Come on, Khanh. Come on, Marguerite. If I was willing to show myself.
Sorry, I'm shirtless right now.
Uh-oh. No, we don't want to do that.
So maybe just a last question. You did a very good job in giving such an overview on those electronic services from IEEE. So I'd like to thank Khanh, Helen, and Margaret again. And do you know or like do you think there are other services that have not been detailed here that could be of interest?
There are lots.
Chapters.
I suggest going to the sites that linked and checking out those tools, because this is supposed to be a brief overview, right? We can't go over all the tools that we offer. There are so many. It's basically, if you look at the sites that are linked and you don't see what you need, just contact us and we'll help you out as best we can.
Okay. Okay, great. So if you have no questions, then we could like stop here. So I would like to thank our speakers, so Khanh, Helen, and Margaret for the great job. It was really a pleasure that you could join and give such a nice overview on those tools. I'm sure this presentation will be of help for our chapter chairs. I would like also to thank all the other participants. So thanks for joining. Might be very early, late, or like okay, you are all very busy. So thanks a lot for joining. And please contact Khanh, Helen, and Margaret if you have any more question about the use of those tools. So thanks a lot again for joining, and take care, and see you next time. Bye bye.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.